Welcome back to From Root to Crown with Rebby, the podcast where we explore the depths of self-understanding and the mysteries of the universe. I'm Rebby Goebel, your guide on this transformative journey. In today's episode, we will be diving into tarot. What is it? Why do we use it? How is it beneficial? And with me today, I have a special guest, Sharon Blue from Blue Empress Tarot. Sharon graduated with her BA in English and psychology and her master's in science in school counseling from Drake University. She worked as a professional school counselor and intervention coordinator with support services. As a mom and an entrepreneur, Sharon learned through personal and professional experiences how to create sustainable self-care, even in the busiest of lives. Sounds like a perfect fit for our podcast here. Sharon has dedicated her life to helping people overcome obstacles and fulfill their potential by utilizing self-care techniques and self-development tools like tarot. She has over 20 years of experience working with tarot in various ways, including her work with mental health, self-care, and conducting readings for clients. Sharon is also the author of Self-Care is Not a Bubble Bath, the 4 F's of Sustainable Self-Care That Works, and teaches courses on self-care as well as tarot. She's currently the owner and founder of Blue Empress Tarot and helps clients across the world as a tarot coach. She's also a dear friend of mine, and I am so excited to welcome you to the podcast, Sharon. Thank you so much for bringing your energy here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored and thrilled to get to spend some time with you as always. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so let's dive right into the basics. Let's start with the definition in case people have never actually worked with tarot before.
Okay, so tarot is a set of 78 cards. There are 22 what are called major arcana and 56 minor arcana. It is Latin and just translates to big secrets and little secrets. And tarot originally started as a card game in the 14th century in Italy. And it was very similar to bridge, trick-taking game. And of course, as all things do, bones, cards, etc., runes eventually became a divination tool that was used by quote-unquote fortune tellers over the many hundreds of years. It then regained popularity around the 1960s, 70s, here in the US especially, as a divination tool, but was historically very highly well known as a divination tool in the early 1900s through the Golden Dawn Order in the UK. And that is where we got our traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck that we know and love today. As well as the Thoth deck from Aleister Crowley. Okay. But essentially, it's a deck of cards, and each card represents something that is universal to humanity. So an experience, an idea, an archetype, something. Each card represents something that we all have had an experience with or will have an experience with. And the way in which the cards come out kind of can express, here's what's going on for you now, or here's where the energy is going for in the future, or here is kind of the energy of the past. And so you can use the cards to gain information, insight, and perspective. And so that is how I use them. They can be used for predictive means as well. I ethically prefer to stay within the next 3 to 6, sometimes 12 months, just because we all have free will and who knows what's going to happen. So yeah, I always like to leave room there and try to stay more present in terms of here's what's going on. Here's where you're struggling. And then based on this information, here's what might be helpful for you. But the cards are old. The meanings have been handed down over many generations and have evolved and changed over the years. But it is a tool. It's a tool. Um, if you don't believe in it, then it's the same thing as an Uno deck. It's just a deck of cards. And if
Right.
you do believe in it, then it's a tool that you can use based on what you need from it or what you want from it.
Sure. I liken it, kind of like whether you believe in astrology or not, like you may resonate with the Enneagram, or if you're more corporate, the Myers-Briggs or whatever. It's just another way of, those are our frameworks of understanding the world and ourselves. But tarot, I have found to be equally as beneficial for the same things, to understand what's going on in the world around me, to understand more about myself, and as a way to tap into my subconscious a little bit more deeply and allow my intuition to play a little bit more, right? You can sit here and be like, what is my subconscious telling me? And those answers don't really come. But if you have some sort of a vehicle, some building
Mm-hmm.
blocks that you can use to kind of piece together the story, it teases out a deeper layer of what's going
Exactly.
on in my life. What do I need to know? What's the energy that I need going forward? Those types of things.
Yes. A
I,
hundred
I,
percent. Yeah. I I
yeah,
100% agree.
I find that the true art in using tarot cards, like it's 50% knowing what the cards mean and being able to read the cards and the archetypes, and it's 50% asking really great questions.
Yes. Oh my gosh, when I teach tarot, one of our entire classes is asking questions.
Yeah.
How do you how do you identify what question is needed at what point in time? So I have tons of people that come to me and say, "Well, I want to know about XYZ. This thing is happening and so I need to know more about this." And I will have to sit and think about it and look at the situation, whatever it is they're asking about, from all the different angles, and then ask, what does this situation have to do with this client? And then I have to determine, based on that relationship, what is the question? What is the angle at which I'm going to ask the cards for information that is relevant to that client? So, like, for example, I don't do third party questions, meaning if someone came to me and said, this guy broke up with me and now he's dating someone new and I want to know if he's happy, I'm not going to do that reading
Yeah.
because he didn't give me consent to pull cards for him. So you don't have permission to get that information. That's not for you. But what I will ask is, what does this client need to know about her past relationship in order to help her move forward? That
Yeah.
is something I will ask, because that is relevant, because she's asking about something that is already over and done and finished, but she needs information in order to move on, in order to keep going and not stay stuck in the past. So the question that you're asking is so important because you want it to be able to propel you forward and help you keep more moving towards where you want to be, instead
Yeah.
of staying stuck in where you are or where you came from. So, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I like questions that are like, what kind of energy do I need to get me through this thing that's coming up? Or
Yes.
what do I need to focus on for the week coming up? Where do I need my energy
Yes.
to flow? As opposed to what's going to happen? Am I going to get this, this contract? Am I going to,
Mhm.
get that client? Am I going to whatever? Like
Mhm.
that's not really within my control, because like you said, the other person has free will too. And
Mhm.
that's not what I really need. What I need is to manage my own energy and stay in my own business.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I love I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah, without a doubt, questions are as much at the root of tarot as knowing, like I said, knowing the definitions of what the
Mhm.
cards are. So
Yes.
what do you feel are the biggest, besides like that true fortune telling kind of side, what are some other major misconceptions that you find people have about tarot when they either come to you or when you're talking to them about what you do?
Well, so a few of them are that it's evil. I get
Hmm.
that. That it's somehow devil worship or something along those lines, because there is a devil card in the deck and there is a death card in the deck. There's a lot of misconceptions around what those cards actually mean. Death does not necessarily mean death. It often means change and transformation. Just like during the autumn season, the leaves are dying and it's beautiful. And it is necessary in order for the tree to conserve energy to survive the winter, right? Some
Yeah.
things you need to sacrifice in order to survive, and that's the death card.
Yeah. It's all about the different phases of life, the seasons of life, starting with the Fool and
Yes.
going through to completion, right?
Mhm.
It's the journey that we all take throughout our lives.
Yeah.
So, is there another big one besides that it's evil, which obviously we're of the opinion
Oh,
that it's not?
it is not. So I always say it again, it is a tool that can be used however you want to use it. And it's the user of the tool that makes it good or bad.
Mm,
So there's that. And then the other misconceptions I get are that everything that tarot says is accurate, 100% true, going to happen. It is what it is, what it is. It's infallible, right? This idea that it's
mm,
infallible. And what I always say is A, we always have free will, but B, the universe works in very mysterious ways.
yeah.
And so sometimes the tarot will lie to you. Sometimes our intuition will lie to us.
Mm,
Sometimes the road will lead you down a dead end in order for you to learn a lesson
yeah.
before you have to turn around and go a different way. So it's accurate and it's infallible, but it doesn't always feel like it sometimes.
Mm,
So that's the other thing I get, is that whatever information I'm getting is it's solid and this is what it is. And then if something changes or something different happens, they're like, well, XYZ. No, I don't get that a lot. But
sure.
the feeling of how come it didn't happen this way. And it's like, well, maybe we needed to have this experience in order to learn this lesson, because it's important for a different journey we're going to be on later. So,
And it's also being filtered through your lens, your
mhm.
fallible humanness,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
something that has to be interpreted not only by, again, by you, but by them receiving it. And what
Yes.
are they remembering and taking away? Even if you were like,
Mhm.
no, 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 that's not what I said, that's what they heard and that's what they remembered and took away. So I think that
Yes.
there's layers there. Absolutely.
Very.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, those are my biggest ones I get.
So one of the questions that I get a lot is, what's the difference between tarot and oracle cards? I think a lot of people see a deck of cards and think that they're the same, because there's a lot of
Mhm.
different tarot decks out there with different imagery created by different artists. So how are tarot decks different than oracle decks?
Okay, so I have this analogy that I use every time someone asks me this question, because I get it a lot. So I created this analogy. Okay, so imagine you're walking into a bookstore. Now you're going to go and you want to get a Bible. So you're going to go over to the religion section, and there's going to be a whole bookshelf of 300 types of Bibles.
Mhm.
And they're going to be in different languages, and they're going to have different illustrations, and they're going to be in different fonts, and there might be the Precious Moments one, and blah, 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 blah. But they're all the Bible. The content is still the same. You know that if you flip to Psalms, verse whatever, chapter whatever, it's going to be the same thing. No matter
Right.
which one of those you pick up, it's
Right.
going to be the same thing. That's tarot. It's always going to be 78 cards. It's always going to be 22 majors. It's always going to be 56 minors. So those minors are going to be split into 4 suits. There's going to be an ace through 10, and then there's going to be 4 court cards. It's the same thing, no matter what. It's the system is the same. The structure is the same. It does not change. It can be
Right.
Alice in Wonderland themed or unicorn or whatever you want, but it's the same. Now, you go to the rest of the bookstore and there's the children's section and there's the fiction and there's the romance and there's the nonfiction. That's all the oracle cards. And you might have, here is this very childlike, here's a bunch of ghosts in their watercolor and whatevs. You might have, like, I love these, the Seasons of the Witch. There's one for every Sabbath. And they're all based on the season. There is no rhyme or reason to how many cards or what the structure is or what the imagery is or what the theme is. It's all what that artist and what that author decided to create. And there might be a couple copies of the same thing, but that is going to be different from every other thing. You
Right.
know, this romance is going to be different from this romance, and they don't follow the same structure. And so that's kind of the difference between tarot and oracle. Oracle is very wild card, and it's whatever they felt like making. And tarot has rules that must be followed in order for it to be categorized as tarot.
Right. You can pick up a tarot deck, and if you know the structure, if you are familiar with the cards, I don't need a book to pick up any other tarot deck. I can know what the Four of Pentacles means.
Yes.
Period, because that's what it means. But
exactly.
But you go to the fourth card in an oracle deck, and like you said, it's like grabbing any of the books off my bookshelf here and flipping to the fourth page.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows what you're going to get? So with oracle decks, I tell people when they're choosing them to go someplace where they can look at the cards, read a couple of the descriptions, because the how the author or the artist created that deck, you really have to resonate with that. Similar to tarot, I tell people to look for imagery that they resonate with, but critical in oracle deck, because there's an oracle deck for every emotion, every mood, every topic. Like you said, whether it's romance, you can find a Kama Sutra oracle deck, or you can find the, like, let me learn about my feelings, oracle deck, like you said, that would be more childlike.
Yes, like there's an indie deck called the Southern Botanic Oracle, and it's all plants and herbs of Southern North America. And so it's got like magnolia, or it has, elephant ear plant or whatever.
Spanish
and so you can
moss
learn, right. So you can learn about herbology while also getting a message from your cards.
I love that. That was, like, you set up my next question perfectly there, Sharon. So how do we actually work with the cards? Moving back to tarot, how do we work with tarot cards? How do we get messages out of them? We've got our deck, we've got a little book so that we can start learning what they all mean. How do we actually crack open that deck and start using it?
So I always say there's no right or wrong way really to do tarot. It's what's going to work for you. You have to create your own personal practice, just like with anything, just like with self-care, just like with working out. Like, you have to find something that works for you. I have 3 kids. Mornings in my house are insane. And when I worked as a school counselor, mornings in my house were insane because I had to be out of the door by 7 a.m. in order to get to school on time. So, like, I could not do a card in the morning to set me up for my day. Did not work. It just stressed me out. So I was pulling cards in the evening. So, like, that was my quiet time. Was, okay, now the house is quiet. I can pull a card and I can ask, what do I need to know about tomorrow? Or what perspective should I have for tomorrow? Or what is a lesson I will learn tomorrow? Or what is a thing that I should be aware of, cautious of tomorrow? And I can pull a card. And then again, it goes back to asking the right question. What do I want to know? So let me ask the right question and then pull my card. what does that card have to do with that question? So you said Four of Pentacles, right? If
Yeah.
I'm asking a question the night before and I say, what do I need to know about tomorrow? And I get Four of Pentacles, my answer might be, don't try to control every aspect of the day.
Right.
That might be my message, because the Four of Pentacles is this very miser card of holding on to things and wanting to control things in order to feel safe and secure, right? But a
Right.
lot of things are not in our control. So I might be utilizing that as, here's my message for tomorrow. I need to be a little more open-minded and be willing to go with the flow a little more, instead of my day has to go task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, and it has to go in this order. And I have to get these things done in this amount of time, because that's just setting myself up for failure. So then when tomorrow comes and I'm going through my day and life is lifing,
Right.
I can
As it
remember that
does.
I pulled the Four of Pentacles, as it does. And I can say, you know what? Okay, here's my to-do list. I'm going to throw it out the window. What is of most immediate concern at this moment in time? Let me focus on that.
Right.
And it will help me to approach my day in a different way. It will help me to live my life in a more intentional, present way, instead of allowing life to life me. I get
Right.
to live my life.
Yeah.
And so that's how I use tarot. And that's how I encourage my clients to use tarot, because just having that different perspective, looking at it, at things a little differently, allowing yourself to shift and pivot and change your perspective in order to become who you want to be and
Yeah.
engage with the world around you as your best self instead of your responsive self, is the most useful way, I think, to pull cards. And as a newbie, you got to just start. You got to start
Right.
somewhere. So if where you want to start is, I want to just start with one card a week, fine. On Sundays, pull one card and say, what is my message for this week?
Right.
Pull one card and then read what the guidebook says, and then journal about what that might mean for you.
Right. Right.
And then
In the context of your own life, right? Like,
exactly.
because it's helping you, like I said, tease out that deeper layer of your story,
Yes.
of what's to come, or what has, passed, that you're trying to get information on. And I agree, like, you just have to start, and you are going to, like, dog ear your book at the beginning as you're trying to learn, and as you're trying to decide if it's something that you want to, like, invest in a course and do a deeper study in.
Totally.
I still use a book religiously. I have one that goes deeper in. So it's like 3 or 4 pages on each of the
Mhm.
cards and has 5 or 6 deeper questions to ask about each of the cards. I use that book still all the time. But then there are some where I'm like, oh, I know what this one means. I know why I pulled this card today. And, just starting with that one card, I think so much, especially online, you can get wrapped up into, oh, I need a spread. Like, I need a specific spread, like cards 1 through 5, and they have these meanings, and this one's got to be on top and facing this way, and,
Mhm.
sideways, and whatever. I find that in all practices, we humans love to complicate things.
Yes, we do.
And there was an interview, a podcast actually, that I listened to years ago, with a reader, Biddy Tarot. And she's this Australian tarot reader. But she's just really, really practical about it, and about looking at the cards and looking at the pictures on the cards and just seeing what comes to mind first before
Mhm.
you dive into the book, and saying, oh, look, I see that the sun is peeking over the horizon in the background. Okay,
Mhm.
what does the sunrise mean to me? That new day, that new energy, that something is ending and beginning, and look, going into that cycles. What are the colors on the cards? What, is the
Mhm.
person facing forward or backward? Is there movement and motion in the card, or is it static? And the practice that she described was a self love practice for drawing one card a day and finding, going like, I love blank about myself. Like, I love that going back to our Four of Pentacles, right? I love that I am both capable of making a plan and also being flexible with it, right? And that I
Mhm.
am capable of that. And you draw even a scary, quote unquote, scary card like the death
Yeah.
card, right? I love that I can accept transitions and
Mhm.
work with endings and honor endings, right? And so I
Yeah.
loved framing it as this like single card self-love practice of what do I need to remember that I am capable of? What do I need? What part of myself do I need to love on
Mhm.
today? And
Yes.
maybe it's that transitions are hard and that I need to love on myself through whatever the transition that is coming
Yes.
today. So that
Mhm.
that was the one that I probably listened to that podcast episode in 2018, 2019,
Oh.
and it was on like a business podcast, and they were doing a series of kind of witchy woo metaphysical ones of business owners that had created really great businesses kind of in this space, and was right about the time where I was really starting my questioning and questing and learning about myself. And I was like, oh, maybe this is for me. But I just love that simplicity of it, and
Yes.
saying you don't need to have a
No.
complicated spread. Are they juicy? Are they amazing? And is there a time and
Totally.
place for them? On Samhain that just went past, on the a full
Yes.
moon or a new moon, whenever
No.
you want to make a bigger ritual out of it, there's a time and
Yeah.
place for it. I like to use the analogy of, like, I take care of my skin every day as part of my self-care practices, right? I put on my sunscreen, I wash my face, but do I love going to the spa and getting a facial? Heck yeah. So there's a time and a
Yeah.
place for that, like, juicy investing a little bit more in, but
Mhm.
we've got to keep the basics going, right? We've got to do something
Yes.
daily to feed our soul. And I don't always draw a card every single day. Some days it's Reiki for me, some days it's, some of my other practices, but I'm definitely in a season of working with the tarot a little bit more. And it's been really beautiful. And
Mhm.
it continues to be a part of my self-care practice and settling my energy and setting myself up for success for the week to come. I love a good Monday morning, Sunday evening, Monday morning. Like, what do I need to focus on this week? Um,
Yes.
kind of a
Mhm.
kind of a draw. What other simple practices do you recommend for people to start with when they're newbies?
I love the idea of just, how about no question? Pull a card, ask yourself what the card is saying to you, then read the guidebook description of the card,
Mhm.
then create questions around the card. I love that
Mm.
because it allows you to dive deeper into the card itself and the nuances of the card itself. So, like, for example, just really quick. Okay, so I just randomly pulled the Eight of Pentacles, right? So
Mhm.
here I'm noticing in this deck, the Light Seers deck, there are the phases of the moon are the pentacles. So one of the questions that I could ask based on this card is, what do phases mean for me? What phase am I in? What phase
Mhm.
do I want to be in? What phase have I just left? All of those can be questions for that. The Eight of Pentacles traditionally is like the apprentice card of like kind of putting in the work over and over and over and over again and hoping that it yields results. I'm noticing in the card, it's like a girl who's kind of sitting at her altar. She's got her crystals, she's got her candle, she's got her journal, she's got like
Mhm.
all her stuff, right? So my question could be, what am I working on? What tools do I need? What tools do I have? What am I hoping to achieve with my hard work?
Mhm.
Like all of those things. But sometimes just being able to almost reverse engineer it
Mm-hmm.
instead of asking a question in order to get an answer, instead looking at what's in front of you and then creating questions, that might actually give you more answers than the other way around.
Well, and what a beautiful way if you're new to the deck to dive deeper into the nuance
Yes.
of all of this. Like, what one word should I remember about the Eight of Pentacles moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's study,
Yes.
maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
practice. And whatever your word is, that's the right word for you. Yes, there's
Mm-hmm.
a meaning there, but
Totally.
like, you get to create your own associations and interpretations.
Yes.
Like, those associations are just as valid as anything that
Yes.
anybody has written down in a book, because it's about you and your personal practice.
100%. Yes. I agree
Yeah.
with that completely. And I also feel like the idea with associations, when you're new, you're not going to have a whole lot of associations. You're starting with a blank slate, and that's okay. It's kind of like, if you are that one person in your group of friends who has never seen the TV show Friends, and you have people who are quoting things to each other,
Yeah.
can you be any whatever, like, and you're the one person who doesn't get it, right?
Yeah.
But so you start watching the show, and as you watch the show, you're going to be like, oh, you're going to have your own experience, and then
Yeah.
you're going to be able to interact in a different way. But you have to learn it for yourself in order to create those associations. So
Hmm.
I also want people who are just starting with tarot to not get discouraged if you don't have an immediate understanding of something, or something comes to you and then you read the guidebook and it's something completely different. I love that. I would rather see something in a card that is not going to show up in a guidebook, because that tells me I've learned something new. That's new information. Because
Yeah.
again, there's no wrong answer when it comes to tarot. Any card can really mean anything. Yes, you have your baseline stuff, but I could look at this card and it has two candles in it, and an aloe plant, right? So I have an aloe plant that I have named Hecate. She lives in my kitchen. And she's the only plant that we have in this entire house, because that's the only thing I can keep alive. But so I might pull this card, and my immediate thought might be, ooh, when was the last time I watered Hecate? That has nothing
Right.
to do with this card, but that might be the thing that comes to me in that
Yeah.
moment when it happens, because that's the thing that is relevant to me. And that's okay, because it doesn't mean that's the wrong answer. Just go with it. Just go with it. And eventually you'll create your own associations and know this card means this for me. And you'll get to lean more into the intuition piece too with it.
Well, and especially if you're just using the guidebook that comes in this little box with your tarot cards, there's what, a paragraph about each one of
Yeah.
these. As you start using them, you notice, oh my gosh, this person, their garment has all the astrological signs on it. Whoa, what does that
Yes.
mean? But that's not even mentioned
Yeah.
in that initial guidebook. And so as
Mm-hmm.
you study, it's like rereading a book or rewatching your favorite show. We're actually
Yes.
rewatching Ted Lasso for like the fourth time. And there's like those little nuances where you're like, oh my
Yes. The little
God,
Easter eggs.
that has meaning later in the show. And you don't even realize that they've put that like little seed in,
Yep.
season one of something that comes to fruition in season three. And so as you dive deeper into your study of the tarot, you
Mhm.
uncover more layers of nuance in
Oh,
the
yes.
imagery and the archetypes themselves. There are whole books
Yes.
dedicated to it. I have three or
Yes.
four different books on tarot
Mhm.
and different interpretations and different study of it, just because I'm a magpie
Oh,
with
yes.
information, and it's
I get
been something that I've
same here.
studied for 5 or 6
Yeah.
years, right? And so if you have some sort of off book, I'm using air quotes here, inspiration that strikes you, trust
Mhm.
yourself and give yourself permission to approach the tarot with a sense of play and
Mhm.
experimentation, right? There's
Yes.
I find that people new to a practice, and I do it myself, where you don't want to do something wrong, and that
Yeah.
can stifle your curiosity. It can
Mhm.
stifle your imagination. It can really box you into this narrow, kind of sterile practice, as opposed to allowing yourself to be in relationship with whatever this practice is. And uh I'll just say it. There are some times when I'll do a card draw and the message is sassy. Like there's some
Oh,
attitude
yeah.
behind it, and you're
Oh,
like,
totally.
"Damn, you didn't pull any punches with that message. Rude." And
Yes.
sometimes it's snarky, and um
Mhm.
and then other times it's really nurturing, and again, it's coming through your own filters and your own lens, and
Yes.
what needs to come through. Like, it might be a day that you
Mhm.
need more honesty versus that nurturing, comforting kind of
Mhm.
energy. So just
Yeah.
like take a deep breath in and let your shoulders fall and
Mhm.
shuffle your cards, and
Yes.
and find your own way of working with your deck. I know you have kind of
Mhm.
a unique way of cutting the deck and choosing your
Yes, I
cards,
do.
right? Like, as opposed
I
to,
do.
so like for me, I know there are some people who will spread them all out and, in a like, fan all of the cards out or mess them all up on the floor and pick at random. I'm more of the, like, cut it so I have three piles, and I use Reiki to kind of sense into the energy of which of the cards on the top of, each of these piles has the right message for me. All of us develop our own way of working with it, but tell me a little bit about how you do it, because I think it's fun. Again, it's got
It
an element
is.
of play with it.
Well, and I have to say, after reading for 23 years, I have never met a tarot reader that pulls cards the same way that I do, ever. Um, so I don't know if
I
that just
love
makes me
that.
extra weird or what. I don't
Yeah.
know.
You're
But
honoring yourself, though. You're using your tool how you've been
yes.
intuitively led to do it. And so I
Yes.
I love highlighting that.
Thank you. So I got my first deck in high school the minute I got my driver's license, and I was able to drive to the metaphysical store without a chaperone because I had wanted to go to the metaphysical store starting at age 9, and my Catholic mother was like, no. So I
Mhm.
had to wait until I turned 16, 17,
Mhm.
and I was able to drive myself there and get my first tarot deck. And I also, I'm very much a perfectionist, 8 of Pentacles, and want to do things the right way. So I was that person that was like, I want to do this the right way. I don't want to do anything wrong. I don't want to incur any wrath of any whatever
Mhm.
entity that's out there. So I figured, okay, well, let me just get the thickest book on tarot that they have because that must be the best one, the biggest one. So I got this
Obviously.
really thick,
More
very,
is better.
like,
Mhm.
yes, it was like a very, scholarly academic
Mm.
work. And I'm like this high schooler, and there was like entire chapters on cutting the deck. And I was like, this is too much for me and I can't handle it. So, how can I take my head out of the equation? Because that's what I'm trying to do.
Mhm.
I'm trying to
Mhm.
take my head out of the equation and allow intuition to take charge. So I thought, well, there are all those studies about disengaging from your body. And so what I'm going to do is, first of all, use my non-dominant hand. So I shuffle, 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 and then I use my non-dominant hand and hold the entire deck. And then I physically move my head away from my non-dominant hand. And in my head, I focus very visually in my head. So
Mhm.
I am one of those people who can see pictures in their head. Not everyone can. I can. And so I visualize the words of the question that I am asking or the spread that I have in mind. I see all the placements of the cards and what they are. If I'm
Yep.
reading for someone else, I visualize that person's eyes. what their
Mm.
eyes look like, because I very much feel like eyes are the windows to the soul, essentially. So, like, that's
Yeah.
me tapping into their energy. But I picture in my mind so that my hand is separate from my mind. And then I just allow the deck to drop wherever it drops, and it essentially cuts the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And then what falls will either fall face down or face first. And guess what literally just popped out? It's,
Our Eight of
of
Pentacles.
course, our Eight of Pentacles again. So,
Okay. So what do we
because
need to know for this podcast? What like,
nothing is perfect, and that's okay. We
I
try
love it.
anyway. That's
You get up, you dust yourself off. Yep. And you
yes,
keep
and
practicing.
you try again. Try again. And especially this Eight of Pentacles for all newbie tarot readers, the more that you do it over and over and over again, the more used to it you will be, the more familiar it will become, the
Mm-hmm.
easier it will be to
Mm-hmm.
tap into the intuition piece.
Yeah.
And you won't have to feel like you're separating yourself, or it's so much work to do it. And,
Yeah.
I've even noticed after so many years, the minute that I pick up my cards and I start shuffling, my heart rate drops and
Mm-hmm.
starts stabilizing. I am breathing deeper. I feel tingles in my body. I'm grounding.
Mm-hmm.
It's just picking up the deck,
Yeah.
just picking up the deck. And then the act of shuffling immediately lowers my stress response and calms my body
Yeah.
in a very physical way. And it's because I have trained myself. This is the state in which I need to be in order to use the cards. I can't come to the cards in a state of panic or a state of fear. I have to be in
Yes.
this state of calm, and it's not me, it's the intuition. But then it means that if I am in a state of panic or fear or whatever, I can grab my cards. And what an easy coping strategy
It,
for
absolutely.
calming your body down in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
So, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to circle back to something you said about how when you got your first deck, you were worried about fear of invoking the wrath of of the
Yes.
cosmos of the cards or what have you.
Yes.
But I find that especially as we approach new things, a lot of people get stuck by fear. And there are a lot of teachers, unfortunately, out there who teach through that lens of fear. And I wanted to just kind of name that, and that if you have been given a set of rules or anything that is fear based or has that undercurrent of fear,
No.
that's not accurate, and that's
No.
not any of these spiritual practices. And honestly, that's a big part why I think a lot of people turn away from certain religions, is because fear is about control. And if somebody
Yes.
is giving you guidelines and making you scared to not follow your own intuition and your own
Mhm.
interpretation, then they're more interested in controlling you than you truly tapping into your intuition, than you using this tool to its fullest, right? Like
Yes.
yes, there should be guardrails. Like guardrails are
Yeah.
not bad, but it shouldn't be there's a cliff and you're gonna die if
No.
you peek over the guardrail. And so
Mhm.
I do just want to, I guess, comfort people and remind
Yeah.
people that with any spiritual practice, if it comes with rules that don't feel right in your body or
Mhm.
they are rooted in fear, eh, think long
Find
and
someone
hard about
else.
who that teacher
Yeah.
is, who that
Yes.
person is. And even in a tarot reading,
Mhm.
I find that there's no reason for it there to ever be a tarot reading that is
No.
fearful
No.
or anything. Like even if you're dealing with
Ugh.
really hard things and that there's a
Mhm.
transition coming, there's support. The tarot will
Yes.
provide what you need to support yourself through an,
Yes.
something that's upcoming. And
Yes.
I think taking it back from that, there's free will. It's not
Yes.
infallible and predictive. and
Correct.
and that, as a tool, it should always feel supportive. It should
Yes.
allow your shoulders to drop. It should be a way of connecting with yourself, and
Yes.
fear should be not part of that equation at all.
100%. It should feel expansive and it should
Mm,
feel full of possibility and opportunity. It should not feel limiting. It should not feel like some kind of cage. And what I will also say is anyone who is not following the Hippocratic oath of do no harm, question.
I just
Question
got goosebumps.
because
Yeah.
yes, because I always, always follow the rule of do no harm. There is not a single person that I will do a reading for, and that includes myself, in terms of not allowing that person to leave the reading with something that is helpful and useful. If you are not
Yeah.
leaving me with more than what you came to me with, then I have done something
Hmm.
wrong. You need to leave with more. You need to leave with a feeling of peace. You need to leave with a feeling of clarity. You need to leave with an action plan. You need to leave with a strategy. You need to leave with more confidence in yourself. You need to leave this space, this reading, feeling better than when you arrived to me, or at the very least, exactly the same way.
Yeah.
There is no way that a reading should make you feel worse or less than when you arrived.
Right.
It should always be giving you something, or at the very least, be neutral. Stuff you already knew. A lot of my readings are just, it's stuff you already knew. But how did I know that? Whoa, crazy.
Well,
But I,
and a lot of times, yeah, it's something that we know, but we aren't necessarily fully
yes.
admitting
So
to
you're leaving with
ourselves or what have
validation.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. But so then you're
Hmm.
still leaving with something. You're leaving with that validation. Even if I didn't tell you anything new, you're leaving feeling more confident in, okay, well, this is what I thought I was supposed to do. And now I have a little more confirmation that, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
But yes, there are a lot of people, unfortunately, in every industry, right? I mean,
Yeah.
car
Oh, yeah.
salesmen and whatevs.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
every industry is going to have the people who are going to use the tools in the wrong way,
Yeah.
who are going to use the tools in a way that benefits them and only them
Yeah.
and is harmful to others. And so you need to ask, how do I feel after this interaction? How do I feel after learning X, Y, and Z? And if you are not, again, feeling like you're leaving with something that is of use, that is helping you feel expansive, that is helping you see life in a bigger, broader, better way,
Yeah.
then that's when you need to ask, is this the space I'm supposed to be in? Or do I need to go find somewhere else to go?
Yeah.
Because
And
there
and
is no
that's,
wrong way. There's no wrong way.
yeah, as long as you're doing no harm.
Exactly. As long as you're doing no harm. There's
Yeah.
no, there's, I tell this to my students when I teach, because sometimes I have certifications. Um, for me, coming from education, there's an assessment that is graded
Yeah.
in order for
Yeah.
you to get that certification. But I say, this is a piece of paper. It means nothing. If you talk to a tarot reader in California, this piece of paper will mean nothing to them. There is no authority over
Hmm.
tarot that exists. It does not exist. There is
Right.
no police for tarot. There's no, like, you
There's
must
a
have
difference
some
between,
sort of,
well, yeah, and there's a difference between like a license, right, with a licensing
yes,
board with a governing body, as opposed to a
yes,
certification. Like you said, it's a piece of
yes,
paper, and so it means that you have done some study, but
yes. It
yeah,
depends on where you got it from, you
yeah,
know? It depends on where you got it from, because there are going to be some places that you pay this amount of money. Here's your PDF to download. And we're just going to assume that you're watching these videos and doing this stuff in between,
right.
And so, like, I think you have to take everything with a grain of salt. The
Hmm.
reality is, when it comes to tarot, there are no rules where you're going to get in trouble. And
Yeah.
so it really is personal. It has to be personal.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Sure.
Tarot in the 1900s, when the Golden Dawn was doing it, it was an initiation practice. Creating your own tarot deck was used as initiation. This was part of
Mm,
your personal development work that you did in order to be a member of the Golden Dawn. You had to explore all these nuances and what these cards meant to you as part of the practice. And that's why the Thoth deck is so very different from the Rider Waite Smith. They're both part of Golden Dawn initiation, and yet here's two very different products. And
right.
so tarot does have to be personalized. That's part of
Yeah.
the purpose,
Yeah.
is to personalize it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are your favorite ways of using tarot? We've talked a little bit about like a self-care practice, setting ourselves up for
Mhm.
the week or the day ahead. Like if you have like big questions or some of those bigger themes, how do you use tarot to support yourself in like either goal setting or well, let's just start with goal setting because that we're coming up on New Year, like people are already starting to feel that like, okay, turning a new leaf, like how would you tell somebody to use their tarot deck?
I love the idea of combining intentional card pulls with intuitive card pulls. And
Okay.
so what that looks like is intentional card pulls is I know my cards, right? And I know what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So let me find the card that best matches what my goal is. And I
Okay.
am intentionally pulling that card out of the deck. So, like, for example, when I started my business name is Blue Empress Tarot. So I was using the Empress card a lot as my
Mm-hmm.
intentional card,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the energy that I wanted my business to have, was nurturing and caring and supportive.
Mm-hmm.
But the Empress is also about abundance and prosperity. And so I wanted both sides of the coin.
Oh
So I was
yeah.
intentionally pulling, here's the Empress card, and let me put that front and center, or have it on a stand somewhere that I can see it every day as a reminder of this is what I'm aiming for,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then what I would do is intuitively, i.e., randomly,
Mm-hmm.
picking cards around that goal. So, like, for example, I could pull, what is an obstacle that might prevent me from reaching my goal?
Mm.
What is an opportunity that might help me to reach my goal? And what is the outcome of me achieving this goal? Like, will I be able to achieve this goal? What can you tell me about achieving this goal? And there's
Yeah.
three cards, one, two, three. And then that gives me some information about where might I have some struggles, where might I need to ask for help, but then also where might help be offered to me and I might need to say yes to something.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's
Mm-hmm.
my kind of end result. Like, here's what I'm going to have to do to get to the end of the road. So I love using the questions around our goals. Again, it goes back to the asking the right questions. So if my
Mm-hmm.
goal is I want to work on personal development, then I might be pulling a card for, what do I need to improve with regards to my mental state? What do I need to improve with regards to my emotional state? What do I need to improve with regards to my
Mm.
physical state? And I
Mm-hmm.
might be pulling cards based on those things. And then that overall is telling the picture of my personal growth, right? What do I need to
Yeah.
improve in terms of my relationships with others or my support system? So think about what your goal is, intentionally pick a card that represents that, and
Mm-hmm.
then think, what do I want to know about me achieving this goal, or the journey that it's going to take for me to get from where I am to where I want to be, and then pull cards based on those questions and see what
Yeah.
comes up for you.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of like a 3 card pull for a specific question because a single
Totally.
card will give you like a snapshot, but like the 3 card pull is it just gives you more nuance. And so
Yeah.
don't be afraid to draw an additional card. So if you're,
Yeah.
if your questions were like you said, what do I need to know to achieve this goal and what might my challenge be? and you draw one and you're like, okay, I think I know what this is telling me. Don't be afraid to reshuffle and draw another card and say,
Mhm.
give me a little bit more context for what do I need to do to achieve this goal? Give me a little bit more context on this, and then see what the story of those two cards looks like. And again, that's an intermediate skill. And
Yes.
so but again, it's that free association between the two cards. What do these two themes together tell me that
Mhm.
just about whatever the question is that
Yes.
you're asking. Yeah.
Exactly. And I would also say, like, for beginners, looking at the elements of the suits can be really
Mm,
helpful because it can be overwhelming to try to understand, like, what's the difference between the Six of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles. Like, that can be overwhelming. And yes, there's numerology, but just looking at elements, like, so if wands are, and I subscribe to, because different people do different things, I
mhm.
subscribe to the belief that wands are fire, in my opinion, because you can set wood on fire. That's why I go
Okay.
with that.
Yep.
Swords are air because I cannot set a sword on fire. Um,
Right. Okay. Sure.
some people swap it and they
Cups
do
hold liquid.
cups hold water. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Some people swap the swords and the wands with the fire and the air,
Okay.
but so I do wands fire, swords air, cups
Okay.
water, and then pentacles earth. Um,
Yeah.
because physical things I can touch, right? But so if you're looking at, here's my question about obstacles, and what's coming up is cups and
Hmm.
wands, so water and fire. Okay, well, those are opposites. So of course there's obstacle
Right.
because
Or
fire and water
and
don't always play
conflict
nice
and
with each
yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So being able to kind of identify the elements can also
Hmm.
simplify things a little bit while you're in the learning stages. And you can just kind of ask, like, in the real world, what would happen? So the wands maybe is a higher number than the cups. So if there's more fire than there is water, what's going to happen? The water is going to evaporate. If
Hmm.
there's more water than there is fire, what's going to happen? The water is going to put the fire out. So, like,
Hmm.
you can also do fun things like that. Like, there's a million different ways to just have fun and play with it without having to feel like you have to memorize all 78 cards and
Yeah.
keywords before you start. Like,
Yes.
you can kind of have fun with stuff too.
Yeah. It's a practice that's not cerebral.
Yes.
Yes, there's like, sure, you can make your flashcards, but that's not knowing the definition and working with the
Mhm.
definition and the art of
Yes.
applying the archetype and the message of the card
Yes.
to your real life 3D world. That doesn't come from your head. That comes
No.
through your intuition, through your heart, through
Yes.
your lived experience. And
Yes.
so you aren't going to learn tarot from a book. You
Mhm.
are going to learn
Exactly.
tarot by
Doing.
using your cards
Mhm.
and and allowing it to be messy and allowing it to
Mhm.
be imperfect, because
Yes.
it is.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And I will say I used my guidebook for the first 10 years. A, because I was lazy and in college and then in grad school and all the things. But
Yeah,
I
your
didn't
brain
want
was
to add
be
more
your
learning.
your brain cells were being employed
My
elsewhere.
brain was being, yes, used elsewhere. But, like, and that's okay. If you never get off guidebook, that's fine. If you always are using a guidebook, no worries. Who cares? It's fine.
Right.
But, like, I will also say I find it so freeing to feel like there's no wrong way,
Hmm.
because it makes it so much easier to approach and do your own thing with it and personalize it. And that's when it gets meaningful, because it's kind of like, with Chat GPT, right? Or
Hmm.
I don't want to just enter this and then it spew out this generic answer. I
Yeah.
want it to be more nuanced. I want the depth. I want the emotion. I want all of the weightiness that comes with tarot and creating your own personal relationship with it, because that's where the meaning is.
Yeah.
The meaning is in the depth.
Yeah.
And so if you're just looking at it from a guidebook standpoint, it's hollow.
Yeah. And I'll also
So,
say, just like for anything, whether you're in the corporate world and going to a conference and you learn about a new tool or technique, or you're in the spiritual world or whatever, if you're not actually integrating whatever the message is, if you're like, oh yeah, I drew my card for the day, and then it goes in one ear and out the other,
mhm.
then it's why are you even taking the time to draw a card? There are times where I'm like, I need to think further on this, and I will leave my card or 3 cards, whatever it is that I drew. I'll prop them up here on my desk so that I'm looking at them for like the rest of the day. And
Yeah.
in a moment of, instead of like reaching for my phone to scroll Instagram or whatever, I'll be like, just give myself 30 seconds to ponder those cards again and come at it
Mhm.
kind of with fresh eyes, a second or even third time.
Yeah.
And okay, am I embodying that? This felt like a really important message for me this week. I needed to embody this energy. How am I doing? how,
Mhm.
how am I doing on that? And coming back to it, and keeping it, um like you said, propped up, like you're keeping your Empress
Yeah.
card propped up to remind yourself, I want to stay in abundance mindset. I want to feel rooted and in and tapped into my wisdom and all those things that the Empress brings. So I think integration is important, and not just rushing to the next question,
Correct.
and giving
Well, and it
yourself the
goes right.
time. Hmm.
Yeah, it goes right back to that idea of goal setting, right? Like, here's my goal setting spread. Here's what I want. Here's what's going to get in my way. Here's how I can overcome, blah, 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 blah. And I do it on January 1st. If I'm not doing progress monitoring and I'm not returning to the
Yeah.
same question, then the likelihood of me achieving that goal is going to be very low.
Hmm.
So, utilizing the cards to not just start something, but to continue on the journey in order to
Yeah.
finish something,
Yes.
that's going to be important too. But it goes back to that intention, right? What is your purpose of coming to the cards in this moment and on this day at this time? What is your purpose? What do you want
Hmm.
out of this?
Yeah.
And once you can identify what it is you want out of it, you're more likely to get exactly what it is you want.
Right. So, Sharon, tell me a little bit about how people could work with you, because I use tarot in my own practice, but it is definitely not something that I do for clients. But you are really gifted at doing this. So, if people love your approach to tarot, where can they learn more about your work? And what kind of resources do you have for a beginner?
So people can find all of my offerings at blueempresstarot.com. So that's BlueEmpresstarot.com. You can book a reading with me. I do one-on-ones. I also run a monthly membership called the Motivationally Minded membership, where I teach a 90-minute workshop every month. We have different lenses that we look through, but the overall goal is sticking to our goals, which I love. We were talking about goal setting earlier.
Perfect. Yes.
Um, so right now we are all focused on our 2024 goals and staying committed and accountable to those, but through looking at them through the lenses of self-worth, resilience, abundance mindset, self-compassion. We just did gratitude.
Hmm.
Next, we're going to be diving into embracing your inner child. And so we're looking at how all of these things affect our abilities to achieve our goals or prevent us from achieving our goals, and how looking at each of these different areas can actually help us to work through some blocks and obstacles in order to reach our goals better. So that's a fun thing that we do every month,
I
with
love
this
that.
Slack channel in between. I know, I love it too. It's so
Does
much fun.
does Does that use tarot in it at all, Sharon, or is that more? Okay.
Yes, we
I didn't.
do. Yes. So it's because of my education background, it's very interactive. So it's like I will give you some information and then we're going to do some reflection and like have you join in and then share. And then there's either an activity or a meditation that we do
Mhm.
and then we share and then there's a tarot activity that we do. And then I do kind of quick little mini readings for a few people at the end of it as well. But that's once a month.
Awesome.
I do a ton of vendor events and things. I teach tarot. There is a self-paced course if you want to get started. It's all the basics.
Mhm.
It's got over 8 hours of video content plus activities, journal prompts, charts, all kinds of things for you. And then I also teach self-care. I wrote a book about it last year called Self-Care is Not a Bubble Bath, the 4 F's of Sustainable Self-Care That Works.
I love it.
And it is quick and easy guide to creating your own personal self-care practice that will be sustainable, but
Mhm.
also based around your needs, not necessarily your wants. So it's all based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because if
Mm.
we're not addressing our baseline needs, then
Mhm.
no matter what self-care practice we're trying to put into place is going to fall like a house of cards because it doesn't have a strong foundation. So we have to
Right.
start at the foundation and work our way up. And so I kind of create a structure for DIY self-care. So it's
Mhm.
personalized. It makes sense for you. It works with your needs at this moment in time. And then
Yes.
it's rinse repeat. And so the book is available for purchase. If you purchase it on my site, I will send you a signed copy along with a personalized tarot card and a bookmark and a sticker. Or you can order it on Amazon.
Yep.
And then I have a self-paced course on self-care as well. So it's kind of how to then put all of these pieces into practice
Mhm.
with, of course, more videos and
Sure.
worksheets and
All
journal prompts and stuff.
all the things.
For newbie tarot readers, I have a free resource called the Kickstart Tarot Kit. So we talk about how important questions are.
Mhm.
And the Kickstart Tarot Toolkit is a digital PDF that you can download for free on my website. It's very easy. It will just come straight to your inbox, but it has little information about how to use it and how to get started with
Mhm.
tarot. And then it's got 20 different questions for morning, 20 different questions for evening, and a whole page of 3 card spreads. So you can kind of spice up your practice. A lot of people start with, what do I need to know today? And they ask the same question every single day, and it
Yeah.
can get monotonous and boring. And
Yeah.
so this provides a little, you can have fun and just close your eyes and point, and there's your question
Sure.
for the day, and have
Sure.
fun with it. Pick a number 1 through 20,
Roll a little
and so
20-sided dice or something like that, and
exactly.
yeah.
So that's a free download that you can get on my site. I want you to have something that you can get started with. And if you want to find me on the socials, you can find me on Instagram at Blue Empress Tarot. I do a new spread every Saturday I post,
Mhm.
and self-care stuff every Sunday.
Yep.
You can find me on Facebook at Blue Empress Tarot LLC. I have a private Facebook group where I do a free tarot forecast for the week ahead
Okay.
every Sunday. So I do that live in my group, and the group is called Self Care Support Circle by Blue
Okay.
Empress Tarot. And it is all geared towards self care and keeping you accountable towards your self care goals. It's free, but it is private. So please make sure you answer the questions
Sure.
to
Okay.
join.
And I'll put
Um,
links to the Facebook group. I'll put links to your socials and links
yes.
to your website in the
Yeah,
show notes.
that's all my stuff. I'm
Awesome.
there, I'm around, you can find me. I love helping people on their journeys because I feel like if everyone knew how to use tarot and was using tarot for personal development and self-care, the world would be a much kinder place.
Mhm.
Um, and so I
Mhm.
want more people in the world to be utilizing this tool
And I do
in the
want to
right way.
mention that you do a lot of your work virtually as well. Like you can do your
I
readings
do.
virtually. So for your
Yes.
vendor events that you do, you are here local in St. Louis. But I know that just like me, you have clients all over the world. and can have Zoom. Will
Have Zoom, we'll read. Yes,
yeah,
I now have clients in UK, Canada, Brazil, and as far west as Washington State and
I love
everywhere
that.
in between.
I love that.
So, yes, I am all over the
Okay.
place, and my website will convert everything to your time zone so you can pick what works for you.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yes.
Perfect. Okay. Last question for you, Miss Sharon. What is lighting you up right now or feels really supportive from root to crown for you?
I love this so much. I love this question. So, from root to crown, one of the things that is really lighting me up is outside.
Mm,
Fall is one of my favorite seasons in
same.
like ever. And so the little nippiness of the chill,
Hmm.
just being able to step outside and feel that enough that when I take a walk, my cheeks are cold by the time I get home, but my
Hmm.
jacket is keeping me warm, or like being able to feel that warm beverage in my hands
Hmm.
and then feel it radiate through the rest of my body. Like I just love outside, feeling the leaves crunch beneath my feet.
Hmm.
Like I just, I'm here for
Hmm.
all of it.
Yeah. I
And
love
it
the
just,
smells. I love the tastes.
yes. Oh my gosh, the
I love the
smell of
food. Yeah.
fire.
Hmm.
Yes, the smells of fire, the smells of cinnamon, the smells of baking.
Hmm.
Yes, all of the things, the cozy Hugo vibe, like
Hmm.
I'm here for all of it. Um this is my time. This is my season. This is my time. And I'm soaking it up as much as I possibly can because I know that in our area of the world in particular, it goes from summer to winter pretty darn fast nowadays.
It can.
And
Yeah.
so we have a very limited window for this fall
Hmm.
weather. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what's lighting me
I
up.
love that. I'm leaning
Mhm.
into living more seasonally right now. And so, like you said, leaning into fall and
Mhm.
then allowing myself to embrace winter when that comes and everything.
Yes.
But I don't want fall to
Yeah.
go too fast. That's for sure.
No,
I
no, no,
agree.
no.
I agree.
Embrace it, enjoy it. And then when winter arrives, we can lean into hibernating. So,
Yes. Yes. More of that Four of Swords energy, more rest, more
yes,
hibernation. Yeah.
very.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for spending so much time with us. I feel like I know that you and I can talk for hours. Been there, done
Yes.
that. Thank you for having a focused conversation about tarot and sharing it here on the podcast. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this episode of From Root to Crown. I hope today's exploration of tarot with Sharon Blue from Blue Empress Tarot has offered you valuable insights and a deeper connection to your own journey. Remember, you are your own medicine, your own teacher. We are just here as guides. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. I look forward to continuing this journey with you in our next episode. Until then, be gentle with yourself and stay connected to the wisdom within.